The problem we're facing is systematic, and sorry to say, the approaches so far, I don't see any solutions come out of those approaches. The reason why I'm saying that, to start with, first point is that we have not even agreed on what the problem is. To combat a problem, you would first have to agree on what that problem is. And whether you like it or not, radical Islam, Islamic extremism is a fundamental problem in the crisis, whether it's with Boko Haram or whether it's with Fulani headsmen that we are having. The ideology of Islam extremism is the fundamental problem we are having. That ideology that believes that Islam is supreme and should rule is the fundamental problem we are having, whether it's with Boko Haram in the north, whether it's with Hamas in Hezbollah, whether it's with the Houthis in Yemen, or Hamas in Gaza, or with the Hezbollah in Lebanon, or whether it's the Fulani headsmen in Benue State. The ideology is the same. And before, I know there's some idiot that is going to come to my comment section and say, but not all Muslims are radical, not all Muslims are violent, the majority of Muslims are peaceful. To whom I would answer, what has that got to do with the killings of innocent people? What is your being peaceful has to do with the killing of innocent people by Muslims? The fact that the majority of Muslims are peaceful, does that stop the thousands of lives that have been killed by other Muslims who are radical? So what the F is your peacefulness? How the F does your peacefulness help those that have been killed? You are a peaceful Muslim. How does you being peaceful stop your radical brothers from killing and slaughtering innocent people and burning entire villages? So don't come with that political correctness of grammar and start telling me whether majority of Muslims are peaceful. What in God's fucking green earth does the peacefulness of the majority of Muslims, how in God's fucking green earth does that stop the violence of the extremists that are slaughtering women and children and burning down entire communities? So please don't even come with that nonsense. The problem we have fundamentally is with the ideology that holds Islam as the supreme race or religion and the propagation of Islam by all means. That is the problem we are having. That having been said, the second problem why this crisis is not a crisis that will seem to go anytime soon is the power imbalance that you have expressed in this conflict. And the power imbalance is twofold. The first is the power imbalance with respect to the kind of ammunition and weapons that these Fulani headsmen and Muslim extremists come with. These guys are coming with sophisticated weapons. Meanwhile, the Nigerian government has retrieved the gun licenses of law-abiding citizens in Nigeria. I'm not even saying going ahead to help communities be more properly armed and ready for this conflict. If you go to Burkina Faso, the government is setting up volunteer groups in communities and arming them to defend themselves against terrorists. In Nigeria, our government have issued an ultimatum retrieving all the gun licenses in the hands of private law-abiding citizens. in the name that they don't want it may produce it will propagate and increase more violence and kidnaps and vices in the society. The problem with that logic is that when you issue the recall of a gun license, the people who are going to bring back their guns are law-abiding citizens. It's not the extremists. It's not the Islamic jihadists. It's not the Islamic extremists. It's not the terrorist that is going to bring back his gun to you. It's law-abiding citizens. So what you have only succeeded to do is to disarm your law-abiding citizens so that terrorists can have a field day. So that is the first power imbalance we have. The second power imbalance comes from the support that these people have. When about 11 Fulanis that are said to be the reportedly hunters were killed in Edo State, the Northern Governor Forum had a meeting. They called a meeting. There was outrage in the North. The governor of Edo State had to travel to the North to plead. The question you want to ask is, how many Northern governors have been to Benue to plead? See, the question even sounds strange in your ears. Because they cannot come and plead. The ideology that Muslims are superior a race and have the right of ownership of the earth cannot allow a Muslim governor come into Benue and plead, because then he's pleading to someone who, by his religious standards, somebody who is inferior to him, allegedly. So first, you see that political support that these Fulani headsmen and Boko Haram, these Muslim extremists, get. The second power imbalance is the amount of funding that these guys receive. It has been alleged for over the years that top Nigerian politicians, Muslim politicians, they are top Nigerian Muslim politicians that are funding Boko Haram and Fulani headsmen in Nigeria. Yet you have top politicians, non-Muslim politicians, who, whether out of cowardice or out of greed or out of chicken-heartedness, will not find a way to fund and equip their own people to defend themselves. So that is how massive this power imbalance is. And as long as you have such power imbalance, you cannot have a resolution to the conflict, because one side has impunity to rampage, to kill, is practically licensed to rampage and kill without conscience. And the other side is incapacitated to defend itself. If the Nigerian government, because you hear our military say that the military cannot be everywhere at every time, practically telling us that the military cannot defend every Nigerian. If the military cannot provide adequate security, if the government through its military cannot provide adequate security for the communities that have been consistently attacked, then the government should create an environment, enable these communities to fund and defend itself, to equip and defend itself. If you cannot set up volunteer organizations in this community and equip them, then allow well-meaning Nigerians to come in and support, to provide funding and proper equipments, proper weapons for these communities to defend themselves against these constant assaults. And I would dare to say, if the government will not defend these communities that are being attacked, and the government will not help them, will not equip them to defend themselves, then the government should not hold these communities accountable or should not hold these communities in violation if these communities find their own way of defending, of equipping and funding themselves to defend themselves, because they have the holy obligation to defend their lives and their properties. And like I said, don't come here and start telling me about two wrongs cannot make a right. Because all your two wrongs cannot make a right have not stopped Muslim extremists from slaughtering people. There is one language that these guys understand, and that is not negotiation. That is not civil communication or civil interactions. They don't have that kind of cognitive or intelligent or intellectual capacity to hold civil communications, to hold negotiation, to hold diplomatic talks. What Muslim extremists understand is violence, is brute force, and that's the only way you get to counter them back. You go to Gaza and see what Israel is doing to Hamas and did to Hezbollah in Lebanon. You understand that is the only language they understand: brute force. And why we are a civilized society, and it's a shame that people are going to be dragging us back to the 17th, to the dark ages where warfare and killing is what we are resorting to. That is what they understand. And every once in a while, we have to speak to them in their language.